Hey, welcome to Pave the Way podcast. I'm your host, Greg Helbeck, and today is the first ever live podcast recording with my buddy, Paul Del Pozo from San Clemente, man. So thanks for coming down to the La Jolla WeWork and sitting in the conference room with me for an hour today, man.
Man, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to come down here to these offices and enjoy this view here over San Diego and really take a look at where you create your masterpieces, man.
Not a bad place, right? La Jolla, California. Couldn't be worse.
It really makes me think. It's like I got to check out this WeWork situation over by me because it's cool. For your listeners out there, if they haven't gotten an experience with shared office space, I think it's definitely worth checking out if you work from home. It's good to maybe just break out of your everyday routine and just get different light and different environment, right?
That's it, man. I just actually met here last week. I was on the phone and this dude from New York, he heard kind of like my New York accent come off on the phone because I was getting angry at somebody. And he goes, "Hey man, where are you from?" And we connected, and he's like a big angel investor, and we're going to have dinner. And I mean, you never know what you're going to meet, when you're in a place like this. So, man, I'm really excited to get you on the show. I'm pumped that we came down for this in-person one. So, man, let's just kind of get into your background. You're a very interesting dude. You have a lot of experience now in the investing world, but you also have a lot of experience with fitness and how you can tie all that together. I'm really impressed with that, and that's why we're good buddies now, and we live, 40 minutes away from each other. So let's just kind of give the listeners kind of who you are, where you're from, and just your background, brother.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm a Northeast native. I was born in New York City, kind of lived up in that area, grew up in Connecticut, kind of not too far away from you. So we have some similarities in kind of where we came up and were brought up. The chapters of mine have kind of led me to California. But in between there, it was a lot of kind of growing up and learning who I was and many different chapters of work and self-growth. And it's just been a fun ride. I mean, I tell you, there's people that get to certain points in their life and say, I haven't really done this or done that. But I think, I'm only 38, but I've had pretty rich experiences. And, I'm definitely looking forward towards the second half of life because it can only get better, right?
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So you grew up in Connecticut, not too far from where I'm from. I still spend a lot of time up in the Northeast. So kind of what were you doing before real estate, man? Because your whole thing is the fitness stuff that I really admire and I implement on a daily basis. So kind of what made you get into that? And like, what's kind of your back? I don't think we've ever had this deep of a conversation about that. I'm just kind of curious from an outsider.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So growing up, I was a skinny kid. Right, like I played sports.
You were a skinny kid?
Yeah,
there's no kid. Yeah.
I played sports like growing up. I mean, literally, I played everything. I mean, from elementary age, playing baseball, whatever team sports, and then I got to high school. I was running track. I played a ton of tennis. So I was just always very competitive. I was fortunate that my mom really kind of encouraged me to participate in sports. So that was always there, but really, I hadn't found weightlifting. I wasn't a football player, so I didn't find any of that yet. But, I guess growing up, there were maybe instances where maybe to me, I felt like I got made fun of maybe of being skinny, or I felt insecure of being skinny. So I think that early on placed some early roots or seeds in my head, for what was to come later on. And finally I got to high school, maybe started, hitting the weight room a little bit, but really didn't focus on it too much. What really did it for me was I got to college, my roommates were going to the gym. And I was like, okay guys, I'll go with you. And then I remember the first couple of weeks of going to the gym, you go in there, you don't really know what you're doing, but you're kind of figuring it out. You're with your buddies, joking around, having a good time. But man, I don't know, I just connected. Right? I just connected and really enjoyed it. I felt like that was kind of like an outlet there. And you know what the funny thing is, between when I started my freshman year of college to that winter break, I packed on like 15 pounds.
Damn.
And I remember going home that Christmas break and people were like, "Oh, what are you doing? It's crazy. Like, put on so much size." And that that encouraged me. And I was like, man, if I can continue to press hard on this, I can change. I can, I don't know, look different. I won't be that skinny kid. It's kind of the thoughts that were going in my head. And I doubled down on my efforts, and I just continued to progress and grow and change. And I really started to embrace, weightlifting. And And, in bodybuilding, I actually found the sport of bodybuilding, within fitness, and fell in love, man. I said, wow, how can I take this skinny kid that I see myself as, and how do I turn myself into this monster that I would see in these magazines, like Flex magazine or like Muscular Development, any of the major, any of those major publications. I fell in love with that. I wanted to achieve that. So, I started trying to learn about this industry, the sport, and what do you do when you don't really know something, right? When you're new to something? Well, what's the best thing? I mean, you just meet people, you connect, you try to find out what's what. And I did that. That's really kind of what I did. And I started getting involved and connected with, different athletes in the sport. I started to really kind of reach out to different guys in different areas to maybe get an opportunity to go work out with them and get inspired by that. Slowly but surely, I started to kind of get involved in the industry, which led me to be working in the sports nutrition industry, along with being sponsored as an athlete. Ultimately kind of living out my dream in that chapter of competing, getting on stage, and ultimately winning a show, and that's kind of what set some groundwork for me, as far as like mindset, and really just kind of working through, difficulties and just doubling down on efforts and really kind of visualizing, what I wanted and really putting in the work. I mean, all of that in 10 years. It wasn't just like overnight kind of stuff, but these are the kinds of lessons you learn over that period of time, which I started to apply in business, right? Because not that I really connected both worlds, bodybuilding and business. What's one have to do with the other? But you start getting into various different business ventures, and you start realizing this stuff's a lot harder than you thought. You have moments where things aren't going well, and you're struggling, and you're like, you can't get to where you're going. I would always take that back to bodybuilding, where it's like, there's a certain point or a certain size or a certain show I want to win. It's like, what do I have to do? What kind of work do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to learn the secrets, or what I thought were secrets, to progress right?
Who's got that next nugget for you?
Who's got the secret workout? Who's got the secret supplement? Who's got the secret diet that can help me get there? But there's never, ever a secret, right? It's just a combination of learning what works for you, what's going to get you to the next point. So that's kind of how things started to kind of blend. I mean, I don't know. We go from like sport to business, and business back to sport, and a lot of what I talk about, because to me, it's all very similar, man. It's you have an end goal. The end goal's to build something or to achieve something, and you have to figure out, how do I get there? What's that path we're going to take to get there? And start going at it. You and I have worked out together, and working out can be difficult. Either you don't know what you're doing, you're embarrassed, right? I felt embarrassed going into the gym, years ago. You go in there, what am I doing? How do I lift this weight? How do I get the result that I'm looking for?
What are they going to think about me?
Exactly.
That's a big
one. That's huge, right? You go in there and like, what? I remember back then, it's like, I would go to a gym and like, what was I doing here? Like, what gave me the right to think that I could be in this gym with a Mr. Olympia or this person or that person? And flash forward, many years later, it's like, what gives me the right to be in a room with, a high-powered business owner or this or that?
Multi-millionaire guy flipping 150 kilos.
I mean, it's crazy. It's what gives me the right? But you know what? It was a matter of really kind of getting comfortable with realizing that I do have a right. I can achieve these things. Do I want to be around this? Do I want to be a part of this? Do I want to be in this world? Yeah. So I'm here, and it's kind of shifting that, in your head, and kind of getting away from that scared, like I don't belong feeling, to I belong here. But I think that comes with experience, right? You start going down that path, you gain a little bit of confidence. Back then,
totally,
with working out, it's like, hey, Paul, you look, you've changed. Oh, that gives you that little bit of
feedback loop.
Feedback, exactly. Oh, wow, this is really working, right? Let me stay on this track. Or in the business track, it's like, you get one deal or one success. And you're like, man, this is working. So those little wins over time start to accumulate and give you the confidence needed to take it to the next level in anything, I think, whether it's sport or business or, personal life, everything in between, man. I think it's all kind of the same. So, I use my sport related mindset to kind of push me through those difficult times. I kind of tie them all together because it's all the same. It's all a sport to me.
It's the sport of life, man. So that's very interesting. And I'm glad, we got you in the live studio now, or the quasi studio, conference room turned into studio. And, you started out with that fitness journey now. So before we transition to the whole real estate thing, what was the reason why you kind of exited the whole, because I know you moved obviously, but what made you kind of decide that you were going to move away from the whole fitness bodybuilding thing and get more into the entrepreneur game, especially the real estate game?
Yeah, I'll tell you, while I was in the sports nutrition industry, working with the brand that I did and just being in the industry and working with distributors and just seeing how the inner workings of that business, ran, I always had my own ideas, right? I always had like, well, I could do it this way, or I would do it this way, or I would do that or this, or brand this or this product. And I always had these ideas. So, I always knew I had this entrepreneurial itch or desire to do my own thing. Always, since I was real little, I've always kind of just been grinding and had a side hustle and growing up, I'd have a job, but I'd also kind of do my own thing. And that own thing kind of feeling would always kind of, pull me towards that side. You really got to do it your own way, or that would lead me to conflict with wherever I was working, or in that case, being in the sports nutrition industry. It's like, you work for a corporate company, they have their certain, structures, systems, how they're going to do things the way things are. And you can't really do your thing. I had a good run as far as competing. I really had pushed my physical self to extremes. And I got the results I wanted. I won my last show. I think now we're going back about 7 years now. And it just felt when I won that, it was okay. It was fine. Like I had achieved kind of a level of success that I wanted and didn't really have this need to continue to commit fully in that lane. I think I was getting now called into kind of growing as a person, right?
Yeah.
Like I felt very one-dimensional here, and I'll dive deep into this. Like my identity of who I was really.
I love that you're going there, man.
Yeah, it was Paul, the big guy. Like my feeling of who I was or who I am was based on my appearance and based on my connection to bodybuilding, and I kind of got to the point where there was a shift occurring in me, right? Like I didn't really need that, So I started to kind of venture into other challenges, right? Like I had this big challenge of one, getting into this new sport, two, becoming an athlete, three, becoming involved within the industry of that same sport. But now I was ready for more. There was another challenge. I felt like, in that space I was done. I wasn't about to own a sports nutrition company. I had no desire to go down that path. I needed something else. So that's really what started to pull me out of there, man. It's like, what else can I do? I need to find something else. I remember I was having these thoughts. I was having talks with my mom, my family, and I was kind of like, okay, what's next? What's next? And that's kind of what started to get me away from there. But I started to have kind of like a crisis of identity. Like, who am I? If I'm not Paul the bodybuilder, if I'm not like, who am I, right? So you start going.
You didn't know anything else because you were so committed to that. I had a similar experience in hockey. It's funny.
It's like, what do you? Yeah. It's like, now what? And then you actually go through a physical change, right? Because you let off the gas on training, on achieving the size you need for competing, and then you have like this physical transformation, which like mentally starts to mess with you.
Absolutely it does.
There's a point where at the biggest when I was competing, I was like, not in competition shape, but just mass, like prepping for shows. I was about 250, right? So it's like I was this big guy. And then you go from that to this other, not extreme, but like it's a shift. And people don't, start looking at you as, that bodybuilder guy or Paul the big guy. They start looking at you differently, or maybe they don't start labeling you. And that's a shift. Right. And then you're just trying to figure out, what what is it that people know me for? What is it that I need to do? So there's this whole transitional stage for me. I went into, funny enough, I had these thoughts, right, from sports nutrition industry. I knew kind of like brands, products. I want to create a brand. Let's get out there. You know what I got into? I got into creating, which is weird for a sports guy, fitness guy, e-liquid for electronic cigarettes, right? Weird thing. This opportunity came across my way.
What is that?
It's the liquid that goes in these electronic cigarettes.
Nicotine liquid.
Nicotine liquid, okay. Right? Because I saw it as, okay, here's a way to get people away from smoking. You know, here's a paradigm shift in smoking and tobacco consumption. And I looked at it as, you know what, I think this is a good play here, because I think this is going to be a significant change in what norm is, right? So I said, you know what, instead of going into sports nutrition, I'm going to go into this angle. So I went in that direction, now trying to find myself again, right? I'm stepping away from competing in sports nutrition, that thing that people know me. I'm going to do my own thing. Go into this whole new space. It's like the wild, wild west. Go in there. Man, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to create a brand. I didn't know what I was doing. I got my ass served, man. I literally got crushed because I was undercapitalized. I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned a ton of lessons. Yeah. I learned stuff about me. I learned stuff about business. I learned that things are a lot harder, right? Than
they seem
on the YouTube
video.
Right. YouTube. So, you know, that short little business venture there, that was about a year, maybe a couple months longer than that run. But that really kind of kicked me into gear and saying, you know what, Paul, you really gotta find this path. You gotta find your path, right? But you're kind of in the right direction. You know, you want to do something on your own. What is it, right?
Yeah,
But, you know, as the internet, you know, is, right, things find your way. I must have, you know, late one night kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do, you know, hit something where now it's telling me, you know, I'm getting ads for, you know, business this, business that, and then some wholesaling thing came up.
That was, I was just going to ask you, how did you get into real estate then?
Yeah, I'm like...
Because you were in Miami, right?
Yeah, I was in South Florida at the time. And here I am, I'm like trying to transition out of like sport. I'm trying different businesses, different ideas. I'm getting like smacked around. I'm like, oh man, you know, just trying to learn. You know, before I thought I knew stuff, but I'd never taken the opportunity to really like you know, grow. Like actually, you know, I'll tell you what, I started reading books at that time because, you know, I left college. I was like, who needs to read books? And I hadn't taken personal growth seriously. And at that point when I was like struggling, like who am I? What am I doing? I started to kind of read and start learning start taking in different perspectives and start learning different tools that I needed to kind of help me through this like bumpy path. And like I said, so one day I'm about to take a trip, you know, across the state, and I get this, you know, ad for a webinar for this thing called wholesaling and real estate. I'm like, man, you know, real estate is kind of your own thing. I've always had kind of a slight interest in, let's check it out. You know, so
let's check it out.
So, you know, hit play or, you know, start time, whatever it is. And I'm driving. It's like an hour long, and, you know, we're talking about wholesaling and, you know, finding a property, put it on the contract. And I'm like, you know, I think I can do this.
I don't think this is too hard.
This doesn't sound too hard to me. And then I said, hey, you know, I think my cousin does this. You know, so sure enough, the episode ends or the webinar ends, and I get on the phone. I call my cousin. You know, hey, cousin, what is it you do, man? I'm like, are you know, an agent? Do you flip a property? What, you know? And he's like, nah, man, you know, I do some wholesaling. I do buy rehab.
This is the guy in Long Island.
Yeah, you know, my cousin Marco. Yeah. And you know, he's like, yeah, you know, so I'll fill you in. I'll give you a little bit more. So he and I just started. Yeah, actually, it was pretty good because we had reconnected there. You know, he's my older cousin. We hadn't really been, you know, too close, and it was kind of a double thing there. We kind of reconnected as family, and he kind of got me up to speed on his, you know, his journey in real estate and what he was doing, and that really just led to me just opening up my mind and saying, you know what, let's learn this. Let's go all in. Let's now like, you know, figure this out and see what we can do with it, and see if I can take some of the lessons from this short-lived little business venture from like the e-cigarette thing, the e-liquid thing, and see if I can fix some of that, right? And try something new. And man, 3 weeks later, you know, I have a pre-foreclosure list.
Yeah. Are we getting into your first deal? I want to get into that.
We're getting into my first deal. So, you know, it's like, I don't like to overthink things for too long, you know, just enough to, you know, you get what you need and kind of go in. So I get into, what did I do? I got a software at the time. This is funny, software, which will lead to my path down the road. But I got the software that was local to South Florida and it provided data, you know, pre-foreclosure
list
data.
pending stuff.
Yeah,
BS,
so, you know, property details and stuff like that. So I get this thing, I'm like, oh, this is great, you know. So start finding lists and I show my cousin, I'm like, look, man, we can find, you know, the kind of properties you're telling me to look for. It's like, oh, this thing's great. So get a list of pre-foreclosures, you know, with auctions coming up.
Oh, these are people right about to go into the conveyor.
So he's like, man, get this list and go knock on the doors. I'm like, you sure? He's like, go knock on the doors. I'm like, oh, cuz, I don't know, man. This is kind of.
Where are you? What location are you?
This is South Florida, so like Broward County.
So is that like
Fort Lauderdale?
You might be a redneck if?
No, this is like, you know, don't go too late in the day kind of neighborhood.
Oh, like the hood?
Fort Lauderdale kind of, yeah, in the hood. In my mind, it's like, let me go find some beat up home somewhere. So I hadn't really like, you know, figured out what neighborhoods were right or whatever. I was just going into the worst looking neighborhoods I could find.
So some blight areas in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
A little inland from the ocean.
In the Fort Lauderdale area.
In the summer, I hope.
It's always summer there.
It's always summer.
You're always melting. You're out there door knocking, sweating. You're hoping like, you know, people don't think you're like, I don't know, up to no good because you look funny. So I'm out there, hello, you know, knocking on doors, trying to talk to people and scared, you know, shitless, man. I'm telling you, you're out there. You know, people talk about door knocking like it's an easy thing, but I don't know. I was
I never door knock.
You never door knock?
Fuck that. Fuck that. I'd rather telephone call.
It's I'll tell you why I was door knocking because
why? That's crazy.
It was like everything else seemed complicated. They're like, you know, mail, and immediately I'm like thinking mail pieces, colors, like, you know, all the variables, you know, and I'm like, oh, that's just ridiculous.
Fuck that.
Yeah, so let me just get this list. Let me get it. My cousin's telling me to go door knock. You know, I used to be a paperboy when I was a kid.
Oh, there you go.
I can door knock, you know.
Yeah.
So I go, start knocking, you know, no. You get a little bit more comfortable, you know. End of the day, you're like, all right, cool. You know, like I did like, you know, 20 doors or 30 doors, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel a bit more confident, but then, you know, it would be Friday and then Monday would roll around again and you're terrified again. You know, it was that weird cycle of just getting comfortable on what you're doing. But sure enough, man, you know, a couple of weeks, knock on the door, guy opens up and, you know, he's got a auction coming up, I think it was like 4 weeks away. So it was real close. And,
holy shit.
You know, bottom line is I asked him, hey, do you have a plan? And he's like, no. You know, so I offered him, you know.
Good news for you.
Yeah, good news for me. I offered to buy the property, and I remember the number was like pretty low, and you know, we negotiated a little bit. I think it came up maybe 2 or 3, maybe $5,000, I think.
Over what was owed? Like what was the price?
No, it was tiny. I mean, I think he owed like maybe 120 or something.
Yeah.
And I think the offer maybe he owed like 125. I think my offer was like 155. I think I think that first deal was like $25,000. Something like that. But
so you made a $25,000 spread on your first deal.
Yeah, it was
door knocking.
It was killing
with no marketing budget.
With zero marketing budget.
And how long did it take you to do that from the time you decided to be a real estate investor?
I mean, looking back on it, I mean, it seemed quick. I mean, it's weeks. You know,
2 weeks.
No, weeks. A little longer than that. It was probably from the time I listened to that webinar to that first deal to that contract of the first deal, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks in that time frame.
Oh, that's insane.
And I'm like, I hate gold. This is it.
You made $25,000.
Yeah, no, but I thought it was over. I thought I was gonna be a millionaire in like 6 months, right?
Holy shit. That's not common, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this.
No, but I thought this is it. I figured it out. Now I just need to.
So what did you do? Did you wholesale? What did you do on that property?
Well, in that time, I had started going to the local RIA.
Okay.
In that area, it's called BRIA. It's the Broward Real Estate Investors Association.
So this is north of Miami.
This is north of Miami, county up.
Okay.
That was the county I was living in too.
Okay.
So I went to that group and started kind of just networking there.
Yeah.
You know, everybody suggests go to these events, and I'm like, okay, so you know, get a little button-down shirt.
Yeah.
You know, kind of.
I'm Paul,
out of place, you know, like you go around and saying you're a real estate investor, which is a whole other thing we could talk about. You're saying you're a real estate investor. It's like, what? I'm a real estate investor? Again, here's the mindset thing. I'm not a real estate. How can I say I'm a real estate investor?
Yeah.
You know, it was that whole thing. So
until you made $25,000 on a deal.
Yeah, and then I was a real estate investor.
Yeah.
But you go in, you start meeting people, and these guys. Luckily, these guys at this group were awesome, right? They're real cool, real, you know, friendly and welcoming and open, and they became a major resource for me. At the time, they were offering like a, what was it, like a 75-25 split, or 60-40. I forget what it was, but 60-40 split.
Deals.
JV deals, right? They're like, oh, if you don't have buyers, it's JV. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Because for me, I just found a deal. Now it's like, oh, let's get rid of it. I don't want to worry about it. So we partnered up, right? We partnered up, and I think my take, was ended up being like $15K. So, but regardless,
you made $15,000.
$15,000 on a door knocking deal on deal number one
in South Florida, out of all fucking markets.
A tough market. Everybody's telling me, I'm reading online, it's the hardest market, most competitive market, but it happened, man. So it proved a concept. Boom, here we go. Game on. Now I'm going to do 50 deals a month. This is what I'm thinking, right? Yeah. If I can do this, I can door knock everywhere in Florida. Game on. Reality came in real quick. As we know, this game is not that easy. Yeah. But that's what set me on my journey, man, into really kind of now learning this. This was now my new bodybuilding. This was my business building. This was my time to learn this, time to figure myself out, time to maybe gain a new identity, because I'm feeling confident in this. Like, who am I, right? So I started going through that whole journey. It's been about 3.5 years now of being in the business, and really it's been amazing. I mean, it's been life-changing. Not just on a monetary sense, but really on a personal sense. Like, I mean, this really puts you in a direction of self-improvement, on
goal setting,
and just becoming a better version of yourself if you choose to, right? It's been amazing. I mean, that's kind of like my crazy ride. I'm just really, I say I'm just a regular dude. I have the ability to lock down and get things done. But really, man, I'm just a regular dude that had some, desires of doing things my way. How I wanted them. Maybe that's why I found myself in an individual sport like bodybuilding. It's like I needed to do it my way, create me my way. And that's kind of what led me into real estate. It's a very, let me build what I'm doing here. Let me build this business, for me, for the way I need it to be for my life. So that's one of the reasons I find it attractive.
It's a great begin with the end in mind business. You can build it the way you want. So as obviously you had that identity change from the bodybuilding perspective, and you shifted into real estate. You had some success, very good success early on. What did you do to kind of pivot to where now you're buying multiple properties every month? You're doing it remotely. You live in California. You do your deals in Florida and some in California. So what did you kind of do to go from, hey, I'm a dude who just made some money in real estate, to like, hey, I want to do this on a monthly basis and make this be my full-time situation? So how did you kind of pivot from one deal to now you're doing, multiple deals a month remotely? Because that's not easy for a lot of newbies.
Man, I think it's, life circumstances, also really just the consistent effort. I wish I could say it's been fantastic. It's been an amazing ride. I hear of cats out there that, they're crushing it from day one, and they get in and they don't look back, and it's just been up. But the reality is it hasn't been like that for me, because those first few deals came in and it wet my palate, gave me this desire for this. But then
concept more
then you kind of fall into this into this trap of learning too much, of getting caught up by noise, getting caught up by the shiny stuff. Obviously, a lot of things.
New trick on the block.
Trick on the block, right? Yep. You always want to try the new tool. Here I am using a software to find data. Okay, what else is out there? What else can I use?
Yep.
Not knowing how to effectively build a business, right? Because getting a deal is easy. Finding a deal is the easiest thing. People say, "Oh, I can't find a deal," but at the end of the day, there's deals everywhere. California, Florida, Maine, wherever you are, you're going to find a deal. It's just the bottom line is you'll find it. But finding them regularly, consistently, and building a business is a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother business. It's like two separate things. It's like rehabbing versus wholesaling. They're two different businesses.
Right. Yeah. Are you an investor? Are you a hobbyist? Are you like, part-time, or are you
doing a deal every quarter?
Yeah. If
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. But that doesn't allow you to have something that's consistent. It doesn't allow you to make that be your main thing.
Yeah. Your primary situation.
Maybe you're still having to work part-time, or maybe you're doing something else, or maybe you're a W-2 employee just because you haven't been able to cut off. I don't know where we're going with this, but
how did you kind of go from Paul, the guy who did one
from
deal.
there to there,
Like, what did you do to start to, increase your deal flow, number one, and then how are you doing this remotely from California? Because you're still doing business, a lot of business in Florida, and you're out here in Southern California, and you're very successful at it. So I bet you a lot of people want to know, how the hell is this guy doing all these deals now from California in Florida? Because you're obviously a smart dude and you know how to make money.
So, well, here's the deal. Hey, I was in Florida. I was doing a lot of deals. I was doing some JV deals. I hadn't really built the business how I had wanted it. Consistency of deals with the team and all that. I was a solo guy. Pretty much out in Florida. And then because of life circumstances, I ended up moving to California, right? And I had this pipeline of leads in Florida. And what was I going to do? I could just stop, close the shop and set up in California and start it all up again, and which probably wouldn't have been too crazy, but I felt like I had a lay of the land in Florida. I kind of understood the counties, how things operate, the numbers. So I said, let me kind of try to start figuring out how to do a deal remotely. You always heard about these guys, like, the virtual guys. And I think it's like, if you go into it with the mindset of, let me create a virtual business versus like, let me kind of figure this out because of necessity. At least for me, it was like, okay, I see how that can work. It was kind of more of a organic thing, right? It's like, okay, I got these leads, and we called this guy that I had a relationship, and called this guy I sold a deal. Hey man, I'm out here in California now, or I'm about to go out there. Let's continue to do some deals. And that's kind of how it evolved. And obviously, when you start building that, right, it's like, you got to start creating some systems to kind of figure out your marketing, or how do you keep track? How do you keep track of it? Right? Basically, how do you keep track of the person you called? How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it daily, right? So you start kind of dabbling with, creating, maybe getting your CRM and automation and some of these things. And man, look, at the end of the day, it was really just about tinkering, playing with it, taking, self-assessment of the progress I was making. Are we getting leads? Are we not? And then just aiming for it. We started doing deals remotely with my partners out there in Florida. I ended up going from the South Florida market to the Southwest Florida market, which is where I am right now. And I have a partner, Paul, out there. Paul, the two Pauls.
Paul squared will buy your house.
That's it, man.
Cash.
Leads for some good seller calls, sometimes.
Hey, Paul, I'm here with Paul. Wait a minute. I thought I was on the phone with Paul. Oh, it is Paul. Like,
we try to talk to Sam, and they have no idea. But yeah, man, it's connecting, networking, connecting with folks that you can do deals with. And learning from them, learning from failed opportunities, learning from failed deals. I think the best way to learn is your failures. Why weren't you able to convert that deal? Why weren't you able to close that deal? Why weren't you able to get leads? All those problems lead you to solutions, right? Like you analyze, why am I not doing this, and this? So if you can really, focus and think about that problem, you can come up with a solution, put that solution in play, and then move on to the next problem. Systematically is kind of how I did it, much like, contest prep for bodybuilding. It's like I started to have like this end goal. Okay, how are we going to get there? I need to do this, this, and this. And, one by one, I started to add it, and here we are, man.
Problems bit by bit, man. That's the way to learn. And it's funny now and it's funny, I bet you that you can relate to this. At the time, you're probably like, shit, I'm moving to California. How am I going to be able to keep this thing running remotely? And now it's like second nature to you. Get up, you got your routines, you got your systems, and it's like, it's almost funny, like you can put the pieces together looking backwards, but going forwards, you're like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? I don't live there. What if the seller wants to see me? And like, there's all these objections you have. And it's like, if you just take it one step at a time, like it's amazing what you can do. You know what I mean? Because people, I think a lot of new investors too, the big question I get is, Greg, where do I get an attorney? Do you have a lead? No. So get the lead, get the deal, then get the attorney. They get so far ahead of themselves. And I think your ability to just slow it all down and find the right people to work with has allowed you to build this lifestyle business. So now as we get to the end of the podcast, I want to talk about something. We're going to kind of have a teaser because Paul and I will do another show, in the future. But we want to get into like having the importance of having the right data, because Paul is involved with a company that I use a lot called PropStream, and kind of have Paul explain how important it is to have the right data. because that's really, at the end of the day, if you don't have good data, you're not going to have a good business.
Right. So, again, because of life circumstances and relationships that you build, you're able to connect with folks that have cool things.
Yes.
And I had a good friend of mine here in California, actually, that had this amazing software that I didn't really talk to him about. At that point in our life, there wasn't really, I don't know, those discussions never kind of opened up, right?
Yeah.
But as I got into, real estate investing myself, we started having those conversations, and he started to let me know about this amazing product that they had. They were looking to bring it up to update it, bring out a new version, and just make it
revising it,
improving it. It used to be a software-based program, right? So they brought it online, and they made it better. I got involved with that, and it was incredible because I do have some like IT experience from when I was young. So to kind of this project, it was something that was kind of tapping all of my expertise from all my years of coming up. And I got myself involved with the software project, and it's an incredible team I work with, and we have this data project, like you said, PropStream. That has been amazing. It's an amazing tool, man. I mean, I think back to when I started and I had that software in my area, right? To be able to get data that I needed to be able to go target people.
Yes.
And to just be able to look up property details. I can't imagine, like, that's how I started, right? I had something, but I can't even imagine not, right? So it's great to have a tool that people can use to really kind of change themselves, change their life.
Yeah.
And really, get what they're looking for, which is
absolutely
property, right?
Property and deals. So I bet you a lot of listeners are thinking right now, what is PropStream? Like, what is I know what it is. I use it every day. It's made me a lot of money so far. But what is PropStream, and why is it important, and why should investors look at it?
Yeah, PropStream is a nationwide property data tool. You can do unlimited property searches in there. So if you're trying to do due diligence on any property that you get, like a lead that comes in or a referral, whatever, throw that address in there, figure out, what's the deal with this property? Is it listed? Is it, in foreclosure? Is it, what's going on?
Vacant.
Equity. What is it vacant? Is there a lien attached? The system allows you to search property and also build lists, right? As, wholesalers, right? We're marketers, right? We need to generate lists. So we can target, people that have higher probability of motivation to want to sell. The software helps you pull that together and pull that list together so that you can market to it and go out there and get your leads, man.
Crush it, absolutely. And PropStream is, if you're listening and you haven't heard of it, it's getting a little bit more popular as it's been out longer. But you can literally pull basically any list on there, right, Paul? I mean, I create my own lists on there, and they're like niche as hell. And it's like, I think once you know how to use that tool, it's almost like you buy a Ferrari, you don't know how fast it goes.
Exactly.
Once you know it goes that fast,
you're
like, holy smokes, this thing is powerful, because it's just, and there's so much, and especially if you're, investing in a market and you're remote, it's nationwide. So it's not like it's like exclusive for San Diego.
It makes the country small. Like when you have a tool and you can access anywhere, then you're not dependent on local tools, local resources.
No.
I'll tell you, look, you get a lead. You're in New York, right? You're in New York market. So you get a lead from somebody that has a property in Texas, or they have a house in Florida. What do you do?
What do you do?
You work it. You call so and so. Hey, you want this lead? Maybe you just forget about it. It goes by the wayside. Meanwhile, you're chucking away $20,000.
Yeah.
But now, by being able to access other markets, data in other markets, you work it yourself. As a virtual guy myself, man, it's amazing. I know you too, as a virtual player, it's a tool that is just invaluable.
It's unbelievable between pulling lists and looking, and I use it probably just as much as for due diligence. I mean, you can see interfamily transfer deeds and sales recordings and mortgage recordings. It's just, if you're going to be in this business for the long haul, I mean, it's to me, it's like a no-brainer to have PropStream, and I mean, it's amazing. So, we'll put a link in the show notes if people wanted to check that software out, because it's just truly amazing. So, Paul, man, this has been a very fun interview, man. So, if we had to leave the listeners here with some last parting words, you can take your fitness journey and your current real estate journey and kind of synthesize the two together. before we share the contact information, what would be some of your best advice for my listeners? Because I got people from all across the board listening to this thing. Newbies, advanced people.
Yeah, I'll leave everybody with this. Health and fitness are number one. Above all else, your health and fitness is the number one thing, because without being able to be strong and healthy to go after things you want, or take care of your family, or protect your family, then what else is there, right? If you're not healthy, maybe you're eating bad, or you're not working out. I mean, those things lead to future unwanted consequences. So what I'll leave the audience with is, focus on yourself. Focus on being the strongest, healthiest version of yourself. The only person you really need to compete with is yourself from yesterday. Try to perform better, or try to push yourself more on a daily basis, right? Physically and mentally. We have these like physical limits, we think sometimes, and we have these mental limits that we have sometimes, right? But if you practice on them, you push them, and you keep consistently working on yourself, you can surpass these points that you think you weren't able to before.
Love it, man. I love it. So if people wanted to check you out, find out more information about you, your companies, what would be the best way to direct them?
Man, you can catch me online on Facebook. I run a group called Flex and Flip. It's basically a group of entrepreneurs, investors that are fitness and sports minded. Daily encouragement. I post up a lot there of my workouts and just some mindset thoughts, and cool group of folks we got in there. You can find me at paul@flexandflip.com, or just look for me online. I'm pretty visible.
Absolutely, man. Well, Paul, thanks so much for being my first in-person guest, and we'll catch you soon, brother.
Yeah, brother.